The Lakeside Cabin Rebellion. Margaret stood on the weathered porch of her new lakeside cabin in Willow Creek, Maine, her breath catching as the morning sun glinted off the still water of Lake Winnisquam. At 67, after 4 decades as a nurse and 2 years mourning her husband, Tom, she'd finally done something reckless, something just for herself. She'd cashed out half her pension, $15,000, every penny saved from skipped vacations and thrift store clothes, to buy this fixer-upper cabin. It was small, just a 2-bedroom with creaky floors and a tiny kitchen, but it was hers. The pine-scented air, the loons calling across the lake, the wildflowers nodding in the breeze, it all whispered freedom. She wiped a tear from her wrinkled cheek, not sadness but joy. For the first time since Tom's death, she felt alive. She imagined her days here, knitting by the fireplace, fishing off the dock, joining the Willow Creek Book Club. The cabin's cedar walls, freshly painted cream, and the garden plot she'd already staked out were her sanctuary. No one could take this from her. Inside, she sipped coffee from a chipped mug, listening to the birds through the open window. Her furniture was sparse, a thrift store sofa, a wobbly dining table, a single bed with a quilt she'd sewn herself, but it was enough. She'd bought a few groceries in town yesterday: eggs, milk, bread, some tomatoes, and a block of cheddar. Her bank account had $1,200 left until her next pension check. Tight, but manageable if she stayed frugal. She smiled, picturing where she'd place her rocking chair, the one Tom used to love. The phone rang, shattering the quiet. Her daughter, Emily, 38, a stay-at-home mom from Boston, flashed on the screen. Margaret's heart lifted. Maybe Emily was calling to congratulate her on the cabin, though she'd been skeptical when Margaret told her about the purchase. "Mom, it's a waste of money," Emily had said. "You should stay in your condo near us. It's safer." Safer, Margaret thought, meant closer to babysit Emily's kids or cook for her husband's family gatherings. "Hello, darling," Margaret answered, her voice warm with maternal hope. "Mom, get ready," Emily said, no greeting, her tone clipped and authoritative. "We're coming up in an hour. Me, Jake, the kids, and some of Mike's family. About 15 of us. Make sure there's food and beds ready. We're staying 2 weeks for a summer getaway. Oh, and Mike's cousin Lisa needs gluten-free stuff for her kids. See you soon." She hung up. Margaret froze, the phone trembling in her hand. 15 people? Her heart pounded, not with joy but with a sinking dread. Her 2-bedroom cabin, barely 800 square feet, couldn't hold 15 people. She had 6 plates, 4 forks, and a fridge with enough food for herself for a week. 2 weeks? With what money? She'd spent her savings on the cabin, the deed signed just last week. The happiness she'd felt moments ago evaporated like mist off the lake. She stumbled to the kitchen, opening the fridge with a desperate hope it had magically restocked. 6 eggs, half a gallon of milk, 2 tomatoes, a loaf of bread, and that cheddar. Her pantry held a bag of rice, a can of beans, and some pasta. She checked her wallet, $80 in cash, plus the $1,200 in her checking account. Feeding 15 people for 2 weeks would cost hundreds, maybe thousands. And beds? She had 1 bed, a sofa, and a few blankets. Where would they sleep? On the floor? The reality hit harder than the logistics. Emily hadn't asked. She demanded, as if Margaret's cabin, her dream, was a free vacation rental. As if Margaret's time, money, and space belonged to them. She sank onto the sofa, the quilt slipping to the floor. Memories flooded back, Emily showing up at her old condo with Mike's family, eating her groceries, leaving dishes in the sink, borrowing her car without asking. After Tom's funeral, Emily had taken his old records, saying, "You don't need these, Mom. You don't even have a record player." Margaret, grieving, had let her. She'd always let her. The sound of gravel crunching under tires snapped her back. She peered out the window. 3 SUVs pulled up, doors slamming, voices loud and laughing. Emily, Mike, their 2 kids, Ava, 10, and Ethan, 7, Mike's brother Dave with his wife Lisa and their 3 kids, and a gaggle of cousins and aunts spilled out. Suitcases, coolers, and beach bags littered the driveway. They looked like tourists arriving at a resort, not family visiting a 67-year-old widow's new home. "Mom!" Emily shouted, waving as if she owned the place. "Help with the bags." Margaret stepped onto the porch, clutching her coffee mug like a lifeline. "Emily, you didn't say you were bringing so many people." "I don't have." "Relax, Mom," Emily cut her off, hauling a cooler. "It's family. You love hosting. Besides, this place is perfect for a summer break. Look at that lake." Mike, a burly corporate lawyer in his 40s, clapped Margaret on the shoulder. "Nice spot, Margaret. You've got room for all of us, right?" "The kids are pumped to swim." Lisa, Mike's cousin, chimed in, juggling a toddler. "Margaret, you got gluten-free bread?" "My kids can't eat regular stuff." "Oh, and where's the Wi-Fi?" "We need to stream movies tonight." Margaret's mouth opened, but no words came. Wi-Fi? She hadn't set it up yet. Gluten-free bread? She barely had regular bread. The kids were already running toward the lake, screaming, while Dave's wife, Karen, complained about the lack of air conditioning. "It's like a sauna in here," she said, fanning herself. "I don't have food for 15 people, Margaret said, her voice shaking. "Or beds. This is a small cabin." Emily rolled her eyes. "Mom, don't be dramatic. You'll always figure it out. Just go to the store. We're starving after the drive." Margaret's stomach twisted, that familiar hollow feeling she'd felt every time Emily treated her like a servant. She remembered the time Emily borrowed $500 for a new stroller, never paid back, or when Mike used her condo for his poker nights, leaving beer cans everywhere. She'd always said yes, always smoothed things over. But this was her cabin, her dream, her last chance at peace. "I'll see what I can do," she said, grabbing her purse and keys. She drove to Willow Creek's only grocery store, her hands gripping the wheel. The store was small, with flickering fluorescent lights and a cashier who knew everyone by name. Margaret roamed the aisles, calculating furiously. Rice, beans, pasta, canned sauce, potatoes, carrots, basic, stretchable food. No meat, no fancy snacks, no gluten-free anything. The total came to $220, nearly all her cash and a chunk of her checking account. She had $980 left for the month. Back at the cabin, chaos reigned. The kids had tracked mud across her clean floors. Dave was sprawled on her sofa, scrolling on his phone, while Lisa demanded she boil water for formula. Emily was unpacking in Margaret's bedroom, her bedroom, without asking. "We need this room, Mom," she said. "The kids can't sleep on the floor." Margaret cooked in a daze, boiling pasta and heating sauce, tears pricking her eyes. Not from onions, but from rage and helplessness. She served the food on her 6 plates, improvising with bowls and Tupperware lids. The family grumbled. "No meat?" Dave said, poking at his plate. "I thought you'd make a proper meal." "It's what I had," Margaret said quietly. Mike laughed. "Margaret, you've got this big cabin now. You must have some savings stashed away. You can do better than this." Savings. If only they knew. She'd poured everything into this cabin, her one act of defiance after a life of sacrifice. But they didn't care. They ate, complained, and left dishes in the sink, assuming she'd clean up. That night, Margaret slept on the sofa, her back aching, while snores echoed from her bedroom and the living room floor, where sleeping bags were strewn. She stared at the ceiling, the loon's calls now drowned out by her family's chaos. She thought of Tom, who'd always said, "Maggie, you're too good to them. They'll bleed you dry." She hadn't listened. But now, at 67, she felt it, the slow drain of her spirit, her money, her dreams. The next morning, she woke at 5 a.m., her joints screaming from the sofa. The house was already a mess, empty chip bags, sticky juice spills, towels strewn on the porch. Dave was rummaging through her fridge. "No coffee?" he asked, annoyed. "The kids need cereal." "You got any?" "I don't have cereal," Margaret said, her voice tight. "I have eggs. I can make some." "Eggs for 15 people?" Dave laughed. "Better hit the store again. Oh, and grab some beer. We're planning a barbecue tonight." Lisa appeared, thrusting a pile of baby clothes at her. "Margaret, can you wash these? The baby had a blowout. And we need diapers. I forgot to pack enough." Margaret's hands shook as she took the clothes. She didn't have a washing machine yet, just a laundromat in town. Diapers, beer, cereal, more money she didn't have. The kids ran in, demanding breakfast, while Emily shouted from the bedroom, "Mom, is coffee ready?" "Mike's cranky without it." Something snapped inside Margaret, not loud or dramatic, but quiet, like a twig breaking underfoot. She'd spent her life saying yes, to Tom's medical bills, to Emily's demands, to Mike's family's entitlement. But this was her cabin, her sanctuary. She wouldn't let them steal it. "I'm going to town," she said, her voice steady. They cheered, assuming she was fetching their groceries. But Margaret had other plans. She drove to Willow Creek's Main Street, past the general store, and parked outside a small cafe, Balloon's Nest. Inside, she ordered a coffee, real coffee, not the instant stuff at home, and sat by the window, her thoughts racing. She needed a plan, not just to survive these 2 weeks but to reclaim her life. "You okay, ma'am?" the waitress, a woman in her 50s named Clara, asked. "You look like you've got the weight of the world." Margaret hesitated, then spilled the story, the cabin, the uninvited family, the demands. Clara nodded, her eyes kind but sharp. "Sounds like my sister's story. Her kids treated her like an ATM until she put her foot down. You need boundaries, hon, and maybe a lawyer." A lawyer. The idea felt drastic, but Clara's words lit a spark. Margaret remembered seeing a sign for a law office next to the post office. She finished her coffee and walked over, her steps lighter than they'd been in days. The office of Jameson and Sons, attorneys at law, was small, with wood-paneled walls and a receptionist who offered her tea. She met Tom Jameson, a silver-haired lawyer in his 60s, who listened as she poured out her story. "Mrs. Thompson," he said, leaning back, "what you're describing is financial and emotional exploitation. Family or not, you have rights as a homeowner. They can't treat your property like a free hotel. What can I do?" Margaret asked, her voice small but hopeful. "You can set legal boundaries," Jameson said. "Draft a short-term rental agreement, charge them for lodging and services, or evict them if they refuse. This is Maine, you own this property outright. They have no legal claim to it." He helped her draft a document, $100 per night for the bedroom, $50 per night for the living room floor, $30 per person per day for meals and utilities. It felt cold, charging family, but it also felt fair. She left with the papers and a new resolve. Her next stop was the bank. The manager, a young woman named Sarah, reviewed her account with a frown. "You've spent $520 in 2 days, Mrs. Thompson. That's not sustainable with your pension. Are you okay?" Margaret explained, and Sarah nodded. "I've seen this before, family draining seniors' accounts. We can set a daily spending limit or require approval for large withdrawals. And talk to your lawyer about protecting your assets." Back at the cabin, the family was louder than ever. Kids screamed by the lake, trampling her wildflower seedlings. Mike was planning a boat rental, saying, "Margaret, you're covering it, right? It's for the kids." Emily handed her a list: diapers, formula, beer, steaks, charcoal, sunscreen. "We need this for the barbecue," she said. "Hurry, Mom." Margaret set the grocery bags, $1.50 worth of rice, beans, and pasta, on the counter. "This is what I got," she said calmly. Emily blinked. Where's the rest? The steaks? The beer? I didn't buy them, Margaret said. I can't afford it. The room went quiet. Dave laughed nervously. What do you mean, can't afford it? You bought this cabin. You've got money. Margaret pulled out her bank statement, showing the $980 balance. This is what I have left for the month. I spent $520 feeding you for 2 days. There's no secret savings. They stared, disbelieving. Mike cleared his throat. Come on, Margaret, you're exaggerating. You can't expect us to eat rice and beans for 2 weeks. Then contribute, Margaret said, her voice firm. She slid Jameson's contract across the table. This is a rental agreement. If you want to stay, it's $100 per night for the bedroom, $50 for the floor, $30 per person for meals and utilities. Total for 2 weeks, $5,600. The silence was deafening. Emily's face reddened. You're charging us? Your own family? I'm giving you options, Margaret said. Pay for the services you're using, or find a hotel. Mike slammed his hand on the table. This is ridiculous. Dad would be ashamed of you, treating us like this. Margaret's heart stung, but she held her ground. Tom worked so I'd have security, not so you could use me as a free caterer. You're in my home, uninvited, demanding things I can't afford. Lisa started crying, clutching her toddler. You're throwing us out? Where will we go? I'm not throwing you out, Margaret said. I'm asking you to respect my home and my limits. If you can't, there are motels in town. The argument erupted, voices overlapping, Emily calling her selfish, Mike accusing her of greed, Dave muttering about ungrateful old ladies. The kids, sensing tension, hovered in the doorway, wide-eyed. Margaret felt a pang for them, but she couldn't back down. Then a knock came at the door. It was Clara from the cafe, holding a basket of muffins. Heard you had company, she said, stepping inside. Her eyes scanned the chaos, the dirty dishes, the trampled garden. Wow, big crowd. Hope they're pitching in for groceries. The family froze, embarrassed. Clara's presence, an outsider's gaze, shifted the dynamic. They're not, she asked, raising an eyebrow. My goodness, when my kids visit, they bring their own food. Common courtesy, you know. Emily's face flushed. It's a family visit, she muttered. Family takes care of family, Clara said, her tone sharp but kind. Margaret's on a fixed income. You can't expect her to bankroll your vacation. Clara's words hung in the air. Margaret seized the moment. I've loved having you here, but I can't afford to host you for free. If you want to stay, sign the agreement and contribute. If not, I'll help you find a motel. The family huddled, whispering furiously. Mike tried one last tactic. Margaret, think about the kids. You want them to remember you as the grandma who kicked them out? Margaret looked at Ava and Ethan, their faces uncertain. I want them to remember a grandma who taught them respect, she said. You're their parents. Take care of them. By evening, the family had a decision. Emily, Mike, and their kids would stay, signing the contract for $1,500 for the week, bedroom and meals. Dave, Lisa, and the others packed up, muttering about finding a real vacation spot. As their SUVs rolled away, Margaret felt a weight lift. The next week was different. Emily and Mike pitched in, cooking, cleaning, even planting new wildflowers with the kids. Ava shyly apologized, saying, I didn't know we were making you sad, Grandma. Margaret hugged her, tears in her eyes. At the Willow Creek 4th of July fair, Margaret shared her story with the book club, who cheered her bravery. Clara introduced her to a group of retired women looking for a retreat space. By August, Margaret had transformed her cabin into Winnisquam Haven, a weekend retreat for senior women to knit, read, and heal. Her days were filled with laughter, new friends, and the loon's calls at dawn. Emily called occasionally, asking for small favors, but Margaret learned to say, "I'm sorry, love, I can't." The first time, Emily hung up angry. Now, she just sighed and moved on. Margaret didn't mind. She'd found something better than family obligation, peace, dignity, and a garden that bloomed as brightly as her spirit. As she sat on her porch one evening, knitting a scarf under the stars, Clara stopped by with a pie. "You did good, Maggie," she said. "You showed Em who's boss." Margaret smiled, the lake sparkling in the moonlight. "I showed myself," she said. And for the first time in years, she felt truly, gloriously free. The moral of the Lakeside Cabin Rebellion is that true self-worth comes from setting boundaries and reclaiming personal dignity, even against family expectations. Margaret, a 67-year-old widow, learns to prioritize her own peace and financial security by confronting her exploitative family's demands with a legal contract, transforming her main cabin from a free hotel into a sanctuary. With support from her community, she turns her home into a retreat for senior women, proving it's never too late to stand up for oneself and find purpose, inspiring USA/UK readers to value mutual respect over one-sided obligation.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, it really helps. Watch the full video for more details.